For generations, it's been the cornerstone of the modern dream: homeownership. A piece of the world to call your own, a symbol of stability, of having finally made it. Imagine a young couple who bought into that dream with everything they had. They spent years scrimping and saving, navigating a brutal market of bidding wars and near misses. But now, they stand in their own living room. The walls smell of fresh paint, a blank canvas for their future. The silence is theirs. The light pouring through the windows is theirs. This isn't just a house. It's the culmination of their hard work, a fortress of security in an uncertain world. They pop champagne, take pictures, and post online. The dream, broadcast for all to see, alive and well. But a dream built on a foundation of debt is often more fragile than it appears. The honeymoon phase ends abruptly. It starts with small things: a strange hum from the basement, a flicker in the lights that they dismiss as the house settling. Then, on the coldest night of the year, the hum stops. The silence is no longer peaceful, it's freezing. The diagnosis from the emergency technician is a gut punch, a full furnace replacement. The cost? $5,600. Just as they're reeling from that, a spring storm reveals the roof's true, failing condition. Water stains bloom across the ceiling of their new bedroom. Another urgent call, another shocking quote: $6,000. Their emergency savings, painstakingly built, evaporate in an instant. The credit card, once a tool, becomes a lifeline, its balance swelling with each new, unforeseen expense. The joy of ownership is replaced by a gnawing anxiety. On paper, they own an asset. In reality, the asset owns them. Their story isn't an outlier. It's a quiet epidemic. According to recent studies, more than half of U.S. homeowners say they couldn't handle a $3,000 emergency repair without going into debt. Think about that. A single major appliance failure is enough to push the majority of property owners to the financial brink. This isn't a failure of personal responsibility, it's a systemic vulnerability baked into the modern housing market. And it's not just an American problem. From the sprawling suburbs of Toronto to the packed apartments of London, housing prices have decoupled from local wages, forcing buyers to leverage themselves to the absolute limit just to get a foot on the property ladder. They become house rich on paper, but cash poor in practice, their financial lives held hostage by the next unexpected repair. The ultimate symbol of security has become a financial black hole. How did we get here? How did the dream of a home become a waking nightmare for so many? And more importantly, is there a way out? And here's the paradox. The very assets that are supposed to grow your net worth, homes, cars, even property portfolios, may actually be the ones holding you back. That's the mystery we're decoding today. By the end of this, you'll understand why your wealth isn't moving, why the middle class feels trapped, and how the assets you trust most could be the hidden culprits. From our earliest moments, the script is written for us. It's woven into the fabric of our culture, a story passed down through generations. We're shown images of success, of arrival, of a life well lived. And at the center of that image, almost invariably, stands a house. We're told, both explicitly and implicitly, get a good education, find a stable job, buy a home, and maybe a second one as an investment. This is the blueprint for building wealth, the cornerstone of the middle-class dream. It's presented as a non-negotiable truth, a rite of passage into financial adulthood. This programming is so powerful, so deeply ingrained, that to question it feels like questioning the very notion of progress and security. But what if the blueprint is flawed? What if the cornerstone is actually a millstone? The truth is uncomfortable because it forces us to redefine our most basic financial vocabulary. The way we've been taught to think about assets is fundamentally misleading. A true asset, in the purest sense, is something that generates positive cash flow. It puts money in your pocket, month after month, year after year, with little active effort. Think of dividend-paying stocks, a rental property with a paying tenant, or royalties from a creative work. Conversely, a liability is anything that takes money of your pocket. It is a constant drain on your financial resources. The great unspoken tragedy for the middle class is that the majority of their net worth is tied up in things they believe are assets, but which actually function as liabilities. They are false assets. They provide the illusion of wealth and security, but under the surface, they create a foundation of financial fragility, vulnerable to the slightest economic tremor. Let's start with the most sacred of these false assets, the primary residence, the home. In America, nearly 2/3 of all middle-class wealth is locked away in residential real estate. On paper, as property values climb, it looks like a foolproof strategy. The equity line goes up, and a sense of prosperity grows with it. But this paper wealth is an illusion, built on a volatile market. We don't have to look far back for a devastating reminder. The 2008 financial crisis was a brutal lesson in this fragility. Millions of people who believed their home was their most valuable asset watched their net worth evaporate almost overnight. They weren't just losing money on paper, they were losing their homes, their savings, and their financial futures, all because the safest asset they owned proved to be anything but. Even in a stable market, home ownership is expensive in ways many people fail to anticipate. The costs go far beyond the monthly mortgage payment. There are property taxes, which can rise unexpectedly. There's homeowners insurance, a non-negotiable expense that protects the bank's asset as much as your own. And for many, there are homeowners association fees, a monthly toll for the privilege of living in your own home, often with restrictive rules attached. These are the predictable drains, the ones you can budget for, but they relentlessly pull money out of your pocket every single month. Then there's the financial wild card, maintenance and repairs. Financial advisors often quote the 1% rule, suggesting homeowners set aside 1% of the home's value each year for upkeep. But this rule is dangerously outdated and simplistic. In reality, studies show these costs typically range from 1 to 4%. For a $400,000 home, that isn't $4,000 a year. It's a potential range of $4,000 to $16,000. While some surveys report average spending between $4,000 and $6,600, this figure is misleading. It masks the true nature of home repair costs. The median spending is far lower, around $540, because most years don't involve a major catastrophe. What explains this gap between the median and the average? Volatility. For a few years, your costs might be negligible. A leaky faucet, a new coat of paint. You feel like you're beating the odds. Then comes the big one. The roof gives out after a storm. The main sewer line collapses. The furnace dies in the middle of winter. These aren't minor inconveniences. They are five-figure emergencies that can appear with no warning. These catastrophic repairs are what push otherwise stable families into high-interest credit card debt or force them to drain their emergency savings, derailing their financial goals for years to come. Perhaps the most significant hidden cost, however, is one that never appears on any statement: opportunity cost. Every dollar spent on a down payment, on closing costs, on property taxes, on insurance, on a new roof, is a dollar that could not be invested elsewhere. Consider a $50,000 down payment. If invested in a simple S&P 500 index fund, historical averages suggest it could grow to over $750,000 in 30 years. The house, meanwhile, might have only doubled or tripled in value, with all its appreciation eaten away by the continuous costs of maintenance, taxes, and interest. We fixate on the rising value of the house, but we ignore the explosive growth we sacrifice to own it. We are, in effect, choosing a sluggish, demanding, and costly investment over a passive, powerful, and wealth-generating one. This relentless financial drain creates a profound psychological burden. The dream becomes a source of constant anxiety. Is it any wonder that a staggering 73% of U.S. homeowners admit to having regrets about their purchase? More than half confess that the stress of unexpected maintenance and costs is overwhelming. They become house poor, with every spare dollar consumed by their property, leaving no room for travel, hobbies, or other investments. They bought into the promise of freedom and security, but found themselves shackled to a demanding and expensive liability. They followed the blueprint perfectly, only to discover it was a design for financial fragility, not freedom. Why? Because their greatest asset keeps acting like their greatest liability. The Johnsons of Colorado thought they had it all. But in 1 year, 2 unexpected repairs cost them $12,000. Their savings disappeared. Their dream home became a financial nightmare. Owning a house is like keeping a golden horse. It looks majestic, but every so often it demands a feast that drains your wallet. In 2008, millions of homes turned from assets into anchors overnight. Equity collapsed, but debt didn't. Families were stuck with properties worth less than their mortgages. Now, let's talk about the car. Unlike homes, which at least have a chance to appreciate, cars have only one destiny: depreciation. A new car loses 20% of its value in the first year. After 5 years, it's lost 60%. A $40,000 SUV becomes $16,000. And that's before insurance, gas, and repairs. Neha in Mumbai bought a luxury car worth 30 lakh rupees. 6 years later, its resale value was 12 lakh. Add 8 lakh in maintenance and fuel, and she lost 26 lakh. In the US, a family financed a $50,000 SUV. By year 6, mechanical issues forced them to sell it for $18,000. They'd already spent $15,000 on insurance and fuel. Net loss, nearly $47,000. The home bleeds unpredictably. The car bleeds predictably. Together, they quietly destroy wealth. Compare the balance sheet of the middle class with that of the wealthy. The middle class is concentrated in the home and the car. The top 1% has stocks, bonds, and businesses that grow without demanding a new roof or a transmission. This difference explains why the rich keep getting richer while the middle class struggles to stay afloat. Society also rewards visible assets. No one praises you for owning index funds. But buy a car, and neighbors notice. Buy a house, and society claps. That pressure pushes people toward fragile wealth. If America shows us household fragility, China shows us fragility at a national scale. For decades, the country's economic miracle was built on a seemingly unbreakable foundation: real estate. This wasn't just about building homes, it was about building a nation's wealth and confidence. An entire generation came to believe in a one-way bet, where property values only ever went up. This belief became the central pillar of the modern Chinese dream, a dream that would concentrate both immense prosperity and unprecedented risk into millions of concrete boxes stacked towards the sky. An astonishing 60 to 70% of Chinese household wealth is locked in real estate. This isn't an accident, it's a feature of the system. With strict capital controls limiting overseas investment and a volatile domestic stock market, property became the only trusted vehicle for wealth accumulation. It's a cultural imperative, the prerequisite for marriage, the ultimate symbol of stability. To fuel this, families took on staggering levels of debt. Since 2008, household debt has skyrocketed to over 62% of GDP. Families often pour not just their life savings, but the savings of their parents and grandparents into a single apartment, sometimes before it's even built. This massive concentration of capital comes with a hidden opportunity cost. Billions that could have fueled innovation, small businesses, or a more diversified economy were instead funneled into concrete and steel, leveraging the future on the promise of perpetual growth. Consider Mr. and Mrs. Liu in Shanghai. Like millions of others, they invested all their savings into 2 apartments, one for themselves and one as an investment for their child's future. For years, their decision looked like genius. Prices soared, and their net worth grew beyond their wildest dreams. They were living the Chinese dream. But the foundation of that dream was leverage and speculation. When the market finally slowed, choked by government debt controls and shifting economic winds, their net worth collapsed by 30% in a matter of months. The investment that was meant to secure their family's future became the source of its greatest anxiety. Overnight, the illusion of security evaporated, replaced by the stark reality of fragility. Their story is not unique. It is the story of a generation. In the US, the paradox of prosperity appears when a seemingly successful family can't handle a $5,000 repair bill. In China, the paradox is systemic. Here, a mere 5% decline in property values could wipe out trillions of dollars in household wealth, an amount equivalent to the entire GDP of many developed nations. This isn't just about individual households. It's a tightly woven web connecting homeowners to the world's most indebted property developers, who in turn are inextricably linked to the banks that funded them and the local governments that rely on land sales to function. The entire ecosystem is brittle. The American paradox is a house fire, devastating for one family but contained. The Chinese paradox is a forest fire, with the potential to spread uncontrollably. Entire ghost cities stand as surreal monuments to this fragile system. These vast, empty metropolises were built not for people, but for capital. The apartments were bought not to live in, but to store wealth. Concrete safe deposit boxes in the sky. For years, it worked, but the value of a storage unit depends on the value of what's inside. When faith in ever-rising prices falters, the storage itself crumbles, and the wealth it was meant to protect simply vanishes. This fragility doesn't stay within China's borders. As the world's factory and a primary engine of global growth, a significant downturn in its property sector sends shockwaves across the globe, hitting everything from commodity prices in Australia to manufacturing orders in Germany. The pursuit of security through a single asset class, when multiplied by over 1 billion people, has ironically created one of the greatest systemic risks of our time. It's a profound lesson on the difference between the appearance of wealth and the foundation of true economic resilience. Here's the missing piece: debt. After the 2008 crisis, interest rates fell. Families worldwide borrowed more to buy homes and cars. In advanced economies, debt to GDP rose from 52 to 63%. In emerging markets, from 15 to 21%. China surged to 62%. Debt made people feel richer, but it also made them fragile. One shock, and everything collapses. Debt is like giving painkillers to an injured runner. For a while, they sprint. But eventually the injury worsens. The collapse is inevitable. This paradox isn't new. During the Great Depression, families lost farms and homes when values collapsed. In Japan's 1980s bubble, land prices skyrocketed, then crashed, leaving decades of stagnation. In 2008, homes became liabilities overnight. Even in Roman times, elites poured wealth into villas and luxuries. When wars disrupted trade, those assets became useless burdens. Fragile wealth is timeless. Behind every statistic are lives. Sarah, a nurse in the US, faced a $7,000 plumbing disaster. She put it on a credit card and is still paying years later. A young couple in Shenzhen invested in a presale apartment. Construction halted. They're still paying a mortgage for a home that doesn't exist. In Europe, over 60% of homeowners regret the size of their mortgage. The dream home becomes a stress trap. In India, families hoard gold jewelry. But when they need cash, resale offers far less than purchase value. Their asset evaporates. These aren't just numbers. They're stories of lives weighed down by fragile wealth. The paradox of the middle-class asset is clear. The very things meant to build wealth, homes and cars, are often the very things draining it. The American family fights hidden costs and depreciation. The Chinese family risks everything on property. Both are trapped by the same global wave: household debt. So ask yourself, are your assets really growing your wealth, or are they consuming it quietly? True wealth isn't about what you own. It's about what grows when you're not watching. If your assets don't generate income, they may not be assets at all, just liabilities dressed as gold. Have you faced the paradox of an asset that drained more than it gave? Share your story. Today we decoded the paradox of the middle-class asset. But this isn't just a household story. The same forces that weaken families also destabilize nations. We explored that in an earlier video. Are we one step from another Great Depression? Watch it next, and you'll see how fragile household assets mirror global risks. The connections may surprise you.